So you're thinking about buying or selling in Orange Beach, Alabama, Gulf Shores, and the surrounding areas. Well, today we have a very, very important topic that we are going to discuss today. We have an expert here with us that is going to tell you everything you would possibly want to know about probably the most important topic you need to know if you are thinking about moving to our Gulf Coast. If you are thinking about owning an investment property here, you're definitely going to want to watch this video. Today, we are going to discuss everything you need to know about insurance and properly being insured along our Alabama Gulf Coast. So let's get to it right now. Hey guys, if this is your first time to the channel, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, and ring the little bell so you can be one of the first ones to learn everything there is to know about the current market conditions in Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, and surrounding areas. My name is Aileen Fountain, along with my partner Andy Hollis and our entire team. We do these videos each and every week just to be informative, just to let you know what it's like to live here and own property here. So whether it's 9 days or 90 days from when you're thinking about making your move, give us a call, shoot us a text, email us, set up a Zoom. We'd love to meet with you face to face. We get calls, texts, and emails from people just like you every single day, and we do absolutely love it. So as I mentioned, we are here with Miranda. She is an expert in insurance. In fact, she just did a briefing for the entire county of real estate agents. And so she is very knowledgeable, and we are going to discuss everything there is to know about insurance along the Gulf Coast. It's probably going to be one of our more boring videos, but it's also probably going to be the most important video you could watch if you are thinking about moving here or owning property here. So let's get to it right now. So she's got 10 years experience of insurance here on the Gulf Coast. She also is part owner of Point North Insurance Company, and I have to, it can be very confusing, Point North and North Point, yeah. But it is Point North. So she's got a wealth of knowledge and experience that she's gonna share with us today. I've got a very specific agenda that we are going to go over because there's so many important details with regarding insurance, being properly insured, and everything that you are going to want to know about insurance. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're excited to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Insurance, huge deal. We're going to talk first about, there is an 80% RVC rule. That is, that there's a lot of importance to having the correct value to make sure that you are properly insured. You know, we don't want your claim to get denied. So will you speak briefly on that, please?
So what she's talking about is making sure that your home is insured up to 80% of the value to replace that home, not the land that the home is sitting on, but the actual structure. What we're seeing in our office, people are shopping their insurance, you know, daily. Rates can be expensive being on the coast, close to the beach. A lot of homes are insured, like say $100 a square foot. There's no home that can be built here for $100 a square foot. So we go over that policy with them, and we explain to insureds that, you know, we use a tool called replacement cost estimator. And what that does is it brings it as close to possible the value to replace that home. We then secure a quote that has that value. Of course, we can always adjust that because every home, as you know, you can put as much money into a home as you would like. But it is very, very important that you do at least 80% of value, because if you don't, if you have a claim and say that you are considerably underinsured, it can be denied. So it's very important.
Do you guys make any, as far as price per square foot goes, is there any, like, do you guys make things like if it's a raised beach versus on a slab?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All of that is considered. So if you're getting into like more trickier, like really, really custom homes, we always say, look, here's what the replacement cost estimator came back at. However, you have a realtor that is an expert in this field, but also you have an appraiser that comes out and does an appraisal. They can appraise the value of the land on that appraisal.
Right.
And they will appraise the cost to rebuild that home. They are the feet on the ground in that home, looking at all the finishes, all the details, all of that.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're in Orange Beach or Gulf Shores, I mean, the land alone could be very expensive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's great information. And I think you wanted to touch a little bit on flood insurance in this part of our conversation.
Yes. So flood insurance. Flood is rising water. It is not roof ripping off due to wind and water dumping in. Flood is rising water, meaning it has nowhere else to go but through, say, your front door, your windows, garage, that kind of thing. I had a phone call with a gentleman yesterday, and he said to me, I said, look, I did a quote for you for your home. You are, purchasing on the island. And I said, for flood, I said, do you want for me to bind that coverage as well as your homeowners? And he said, my home's gold fortified that I'm buying. So no, I don't need flood insurance. And so I took it back a few steps and I said, well, let me explain all of this. Fortified is completely different.
Right.
Flood is completely different than homeowners insurance. It's coverage for rising water.
Right.
And so
which has nothing to do with how the home was constructed.
Exactly.
And this particular home, so you guys know, was in a flood zone X, even though it was on the island. There are plenty of flood zone X's on the island. People are also confused about that. They think they have to be off the island to not be in a flood zone. That is not necessarily the case. So this particular house was in a flood zone X, so he didn't think he needed flood insurance. And Miranda and I would both agree, if you are in Gulf Shores or Orange Beach and you're in a flood zone X, I would certainly err on the side of caution and have that flood policy. It is not an expensive policy when you're in a flood zone X.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And any home can flood, whether you're purchasing in Somerdale, Alabama or Gulf Shores, Alabama. Like any home can flood.
Well, perfect example of that is Hurricane Sally. We saw areas that had traditionally never flooded on this island or in this area, even in Foley, that flooded during that storm, because that storm was different than every other storm I have ever lived through in my life, in that it did not just blow through, it sat on top of us all night and just dumped rain all night long. So that created a situation that we had never encountered before. So there were a lot of areas that have never flooded that flooded during Sally.
I want to touch one more thing on that. After Hurricane Sally, I met with the state for flood insurance, NFIP, National Flood. And I asked one of their reps, I said, why? Some of these homes that we've had insured since the 60s and they've never flooded before. Why is it so different now? And he said, you all are kind of in the perfect storm down here. He said, it's beautiful. It's very attractive. Everyone wants to be there. There's all of this growth. There's lots of potential down there. And with all of that comes concrete. And so it's one of the rainiest areas in the nation. The water has to go somewhere. So you've got all of this new concrete and the rain. The homes that have never flooded before, they're going to flood. So it's just important to make sure that you have that extra little layer of protection.
And I will say, I do think the city of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach are very aware of this and the growth that we have seen in our area. And I will say that they do a really good job of requiring new subdivisions to have retention ponds, which definitely helps with what she's talking about. So it's not that this topic is ignored by any means. We do try and plan as best as we possibly can to manage the growth and manage the safety of the residents and that topic. Let's segue into flood insurance specifically. I know you no longer need elevation certificates to quote insurance, which is awesome, but you had shared something with me that I wasn't even aware of, in that there's insurance agents, even here in our local market, but certainly if you weren't familiar with our area, that if they improperly mapped that property to get the flood quote, it flooded and later you filed a claim, and the adjuster realized that it was improperly mapped and you weren't paying the proper coverage, that they could deny your claim.
Yes.
So that scared me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want you to talk about the significance of understanding that and making sure that that is done correctly and that the person is getting the proper flood insurance for their property.
This situation actually happened with a professional that was moving here, and she's a long-term investor, and they were moving here as a second home. And she called me and she said, Miranda, like, I need to talk to you about this. So I got a quote from you and 2 others, and it's from the same carrier for flood, but yours is thousands more. And I just wanted to reach out to you because I really liked talking with you and you explained everything, but this, I can't pay thousands more. I said, absolutely. And I said, so I asked her a few questions and she said, I don't know. And so I said, I'll tell you what, can you email me the quotes that you received? And she said, sure. And I looked at them and again, could not see what the difference was. And so I called underwriting and I said, can you please help me out with this? They got other quotes that were considerably less. Sent him all of the quotes and he said, I know right off the bat, he said, these were not mapped correctly. He said the pin was not dropped. He said, matter of fact, one is 2.5 miles away from the
2.5 miles.
2.5 miles. And so
that's not even like next door close.
It's not next door. It's not a block away, 2.5 miles. And that's from the underwriter. I said, well, what do I do with this? Because and he said, yours is correct. He said, you dropped the pin where it needed to be. Unfortunately, these others are not correct. So, and I knew that something had to be off on this, right? Because right directly behind this home was just like marshland, like protected land. And so I thought, there's just no way that this can be correct.
And you couldn't have been thousands of dollars off.
Yes. And the coverages were the same. So I was like, something is weird. And so that's whenever I sent it to the underwriter.
Well, thankfully you checked on that for that homeowner, because that would have been awful if she flooded and they denied her claim.
Right.
Going back to the fact that we don't need elevation certificates anymore to get quotes for flood. That used to be kind of a big hurdle, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And now you guys can get that. But what I really want to talk about is the fact that you can have 2 houses side by side from one another in the same exact flood zone, and their coverages are their costs will be different.
Yes.
So touch on that for us.
So I used the example with Aileen that she and I are neighbors, and her home we're both in an X zone, which means least likely to flood. The bank does not require flood insurance typically if you're in an X zone. Aileen and I we're neighbors in an X zone. Her home is 2 steps to get into the home. Mine is on slab. Even though we're in an X zone, which in the past, it used to be, oh, you're in an X zone, your premium will be X. It's no longer like that. It's very, very location sensitive, and it's very, like the build of the home it's very sensitive to that. And the system has all of that. I told Aileen that, and I've done this several times, comparing both quotes, hers will be considerably less than mine because it's 2 feet, 2 steps to get into her home versus mine is on a slab.
Well, you brought me to something that we don't have on our agenda, but I would like to discuss real quick is, can you briefly go over the flood zones for us?
Yes. So there's X, there's AE, there's VE, and there's this weird thing. It's not a flood zone per se, but it's called COBRA. It's coastal barrier land. So you can have a home that's in an X flood zone, but it can be COBRA land. And years ago, you couldn't get coverage for that as far as like flood coverage or anything. And what it is, it's coastal barrier land. It's really beautiful land that the state wanted to kind of, keep it from being built on. And that
which we see down Fort Morgan.
Yes. They tried to keep people from building on the land to keep it, kind of sacred. And anyway, years have passed. There are homes on the COBRA land, and you can now get coverage for that.
It's great information, because that is probably still a misconception on that. Okay.
Yeah.
And so on the flood zones with the AE, VE, can you just kind of talk a little bit more about those?
So X is least likely. statistically to flood. AE is, it is in a flood zone. The bank will require flood insurance, but still it's kind of in that gray zone. Like the VE, it's kind of the hot zone. It's kind of, lower land. However, if you're building, like say that you have raw land, if you're building a home in a VE flood zone, getting a great surveyor to come out there and to say, okay, you need to build your home this high up and right in these parameters is crucial. It's just key.
Wow.
You can save a lot of money on your insurance if you have someone that, a good surveyor that can come out there and say, because it's in a VE or an AE, then you need to build your home up X amount of feet. And that does help with insurance.
And I've talked about this with clients before too. So in that scenario, the elevation of the home is what's critical.
Yes.
So if you had the proper elevation in that flood zone, you can still get affordable flood insurance.
Yes. Yes.
Now, if you are not built at the proper elevation, say you build a brand new house and you were like a foot off, how significantly is that going to impact? I mean, we're talking about double, we're talking triple.
Well, it really just depends upon the location. It depends upon the build of the home. It depends on so many things. But that elevation is key. And if you have anything underneath that home, meaning
something enclosed.
Yes.
If it's an older home, like prior to where people really paid attention to building it to a particular elevation, prior to the new flood maps and all that kind of thing, are you seeing those homes just astronomical flood insurance?
They can be. I have, and this is very rare, but I have heard of a couple of situations where they have gotten their home raised. And it was down Fort Morgan Road. They've gotten their home raised because after time, the elevations change and sand washes in and, things happen. But I have had a couple of people that they have had engineers come out there and raise their home.
Well, that's very interesting. Let's move on to, that'd be a perfect segue into newer constructed properties. So we're going to talk about the significance of being 2007 or newer, and we're going to talk about the significance of being 2014 and newer. So I'm going to let you take that one away.
People will call me and they will say, Miranda, why is insurance so expensive? And it's funny how I think that you could probably agree with this. Like either people are like new home buyers or they love the specialness of an older home and the unique features that it has. And a lot of times they're one way or the other. And I'll say, unfortunately, because the homes that you're looking at, they're 1990s and 1970s or whatever. 07 and newer is better because in 06, there were new building codes, impact windows, roofs had to be strapped, some different things. It did cost 10% more statistically to build a home that's 07 and newer with the new building codes. But it does help on your insurance.
And then the building codes were put in place in Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, and all of Baldwin County. Okay.
From what I've been told.
Okay. Great information.
So to trail on that, 07 is newer. And I've quoted homes that are right next door to each other, say an 05 and an 07, and it is a good bit difference in premium. But the best typically is fortified homes. Whether it's from the ground up gold fortified, or if it's say an older home that has a fortified roof, that does always help.
And does that 07 or newer translate to condos? Do you know?
So condos.
For master policies?
For condos, the big deal is 6 stories and above. And so they have different ratings. So 6-story and above statistically is superior build, is concrete. The really cute older, what Gulf Shores I think is known for the specialness, like the wood, the older,
the 2-story. Yeah.
Yes, they're so cute and have so much character to them. But man alive, are they expensive on insurance. So
good to know.
Yeah, 6 stories and above, that's kind of the magic number. So
it's not necessarily the age of the building, it's more the type of construction, whether it is concrete, wood, stucco, that kind of thing. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So let's go back to 2014 or newer, and let's just talk real quickly about the fortifications.
So I've recently been told, so I'm not going to touch on this too much, is that there's now like fortified roof, and then there's a fortified home. Like you can buy a 1993 home and you can put a fortified roof on it.
Right.
What fortified means is that, so for the roof, that it has a layer, it's like almost like a rubber tar that it adheres to the wood. And as they're nailing in your shingles, it kind of hugs that nail. So hurricane comes, shingles get ripped off of the roof, that home is still protected by that rubber tar stuff. So it's supposed to withstand winds up to 155 miles an hour. So gold fortified is the whole home is supposed to withstand winds up to 155 miles an hour. Hurricane Sally, they did see that those homes did hold up relatively well.
Now I heard that the fortification people themselves flew down here after Sally to look at fortified homes versus non-fortified firsthand, and found, I mean, it was dramatically different. It wasn't even like a small thing. And so it really kind of confirmed the number one, that the fortifications are working, and number two, that they do deserve the breaks on insurance.
Absolutely. And I'll touch even further on that. So the fortification started in Mobile and Baldwin counties here in Alabama.
Did not know that.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes.
Alabama pioneered something?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. It did so well during Sally that they have adopted our program here, and they have brought it to all other areas. In
coastal areas?
No, not even coastal. I mean, like all over the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are upper north counties in Alabama that they are working on their fortification right now.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
But I do want to reiterate that, number one, the fortification classification did not start until 2014. I've also been told by the fortification certificate people that certify homes that if a house did not go through the fortification process at the time of construction, even if it was built gold fortified or silver fortified, which I'm told that those classifications are going away, if they weren't signed off on and inspected during construction, that they cannot retroactively get that fortification, even if it was built to that. So it was very important that under construction, they were certified, and there's a whole process for that certification. I actually had a client who built $1 million house on the water. And when he was ready to resell it, he's telling me how above and beyond he went during the time of construction, how much deeper his pilings were than was required, and on and on. And I was like, oh man, this is amazing. And I was like, okay, so it's of course it's gold fortified. He's like, oh no, I didn't pay for the fortification. I was like, what? He said, yeah, they were going to charge me $1,000 to send an engineer out here to do all the paperwork and everything, and I just wasn't going to pay that. I'm like, you built $1 million house and you saved $1,000 and you don't have the certificate?
And he would have saved that in a year.
Oh my gosh, I was mind blown. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Absolutely couldn't believe it. But anyway, houses that were prior to 2014 or even after 2014 that didn't get the certification, they can get, when they're putting a new roof on, as she touched on, they can get a fortified roof, which again is how they put the roof on. I've actually helped a client put a fortified roof on I think it was probably around a 1997 home. And so I went through that whole process with them because they were from up north. They didn't have a clue the importance of it. And they were doing it from afar. So I kind of helped them through that whole process with knockout. And it was a process, not going to lie. But, I'm sure, again, the savings. And then if we do have another storm, they're going to be better protected. Their roof's going to be better protected.
Yes.
So totally worth it. It was, and it did cost, it wasn't a huge extra cost, but it was, of course, an extra cost. And I just told them, I said, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's worth it. So,
and not that I'm the expert in fortification, but I will tell you, they do have expiration dates. Bottom right-hand corner, always pay attention to that because it can sneak up on you.
Yeah, and you will have to get it recertified, which you can do.
Yes.
What I typically see is 5 years. That every 5 years they've got to be re-upped, if you will. And that's a detail honestly most people don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
And so that can be, that can be an issue if it's 10 years old, but they never got recertified. And again, a lot of homeowners didn't know to do that.
Right.
Even realtors don't understand
the
that.
program was so new that I think everybody was trying to figure out this whole process. And like I said, not only was the program so new, but it was a brand new program that they rolled out in our area, given that we are so close to the water and hurricanes and all of that. We were kind of like a test trial, basically.
Let's go back real quick to condo insurance and let's discuss HO6 policies. Also can be referred to as contents and liability policies. If you are buying a condo and you watch my condo buying class, you know that you've got to have an HO6 policy, and I'm going to let the expert talk more about that.
HO6 coverage, that is only for condos, and you can get that as primary, secondary, or rental. I will say this, I'm going to touch on this because this includes homes or condos. If you're purchasing a home from Aileen or a condo, you decide that you want to let friends or family, even though no money is exchanged, use that property, it needs to be as rental. Because if they're not on deed or title or insurance and something does happen, that claim can be denied. So even though it's friends or family, no money is being exchanged, it is still someone staying in that home without you being there, and something happens,
And I can almost guarantee non-rentals that is going to be the case at some point in time.
I always tell people it's just best if you're going to let your children, your older children come in, or
anybody,
neighbors,
family, friends, anybody. Yeah. And I touched on this too in the condo buying class. They're not expensive policies.
No.
It's not worth saving the $600 to $1,500 that they're going to cost you.
Correct.
They're going to cover your contents. They're going to cover the liability, which can be, devastating.
Absolutely.
It could devastate your portfolio. It could devastate you financially.
Yeah.
Not having that liability insurance. I also want you to touch on, because I get this question all the time, as what the master policy of a condo includes and what the HO6 policy includes and why they're both important. And then we're going to segue into the carve-outs that we talked about.
Okay. I always somebody will call me and say, Miranda, I'm buying at ABC unit complex and I need to get a quote. Absolutely. You need an HO6 policy. Make sure that you get with the HOA and get a copy of that master policy and know what the coverages are, because from state to state, that can look completely different. I am starting to see some changes, some shifts just this year in coverages to the master policies. There's no way for me to know that. So making sure that you do your due diligence and know, for one, you have a copy of that policy, but for two, you know of any and all things that policy covers and does not cover. Very, very important.
But let's talk about, I want them to know what it typically covers, because some of these changes are happening now, but let's talk about what that master policy as far as walls in versus, let's talk about that.
So in Florida, it's from the studs in that the HO6 policy covers. In Alabama, it's from the paint in. Say that I have a condo and I've gone in and done new flooring and cabinetry and countertops and made it just really pretty and custom. That's on me. That's not the master policy. That's on me.
The master policy is going to build it back to the original specifications.
Like material. Statistically, again, check with your HOA about all of this. There are new things that the master policies are not covering. I had a phone call just the other day saying, oh, our doors and windows are no longer covered by our master policy. Can we increase coverage? Absolutely, we can. That HO6 policy can, if the master policy does not cover it, the HO6 policy we can add that coverage.
And what she's talking about there is something that we are just now seeing, and it's kind of mind-blowing, but also possibly genius. There's a very prominent real estate attorney here who represents a lot of condo complexes, a very smart man. He is starting to utilize what's called carve-outs, meaning carving out certain things that would have normally been covered under a master condo policy, carving those things out to bring that premium down, because the reality is that you can then add it as an individual owner to your HO6 policy for way less money than the condo is going to have to pay for the master policy. So leads me to a very important detail on the condo buying part of things, which is when you get that master policy that you want to review, that your lender is going to want to review, but you want to ask the question, are there any carve-outs in this policy, or are you guys discussing potentially adding carve-outs to the policy? Because you need to be armed with that information so that your HO6 policy properly covers you under that scenario. It's nothing to be afraid of, but you've got to have that knowledge. And again, this is so brand new, that is something that we've never had to deal with before, but incredibly important detail moving forward.
Yeah, and this is the thing. So the master policy yearly, it can change, and it's nothing that they're trying to hide or tricky or anything like that. But they're
it's all about saving money.
Well, and also what the carrier is even able to offer. And so just making sure that you are up to date on that master policy, what it covers again and what it doesn't cover, whether it's a carve out or not.
Let's discuss things that the consumer needs to be aware of, some like key little details that you wouldn't think about unless you really knew. But there's a few things that I want you to touch on with regards to that. I'm talking about hurricane opening protection, talking about replacement cost.
Yes. Whether you purchase a home, and you can add these things, but they are key not only for insurance purposes, but for just having a good protected home and making sure that you're doing your due diligence. These are just a few things. Hurricane opening protection. Years ago, it used to be where it had to be all custom. It was very costly.
Very costly.
Yes. And now we have a lot of companies that are here locally. They know exactly what you need, whether it's called window glazing. Have you heard of that?
Mm-mm.
So window glazing, it's amazing. For these homes that are older and like say 3 stories up, I mean, who can put a shutter on,
right.
Especially whenever you're in Kentucky and the home is here, hurricane is on its
way.
Or
the hurricane's on its way and it's already a little windy and you're like on a ladder.
Yes. So glazing it's basically like a tint, but you don't see that it does not discolor your windows. But it can glaze your windows to where it can withstand winds. There is a local glass company. There's a couple that offer that. You can also order your shutters from Home Depot, Lowe's. I know there's several locals that offer it. They'll come out and measure. They'll install them. Anything from screens to roll down. There are actually automated ones from your phone now. Of course, the fancier, the more expensive.
Right.
Lots of different options for that.
Very, very, very cool on that. And I want to touch on real quick on that. Typically on a non-gold fortified home, when I'm helping a client get insurance quotes, which I typically always offer to help get at least one quote for them, and they're welcome to get multiple quotes from there. But typically the first question I get asked if it's not gold fortified is there any hurricane protection for the windows and doors? So glad that you mentioned that.
Any glass opening, whether it's garage door with windows or front door having glass, any opening.
Okay. So let's go next on our what consumers need to be aware of, and let's talk about the replacement cost if possible.
So what we're seeing here is that if you have like an older roof, for example, like a roof that's over 20 years old, some carriers will say, sorry, it'll be actual cash value. That is where it decreases in value due to the age over the course of the life of the roof or whatever it is, the home. It's always best to get replacement cost. It brings you back, like say that you have a 10-year-old roof, hurricane comes, blows the roof off. And it gets the policy would get you a new roof in like material.
Is that as
deductibles and all?
Is that as important if it's a newer home?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because you never want it to depreciate in value over time. You want it to be replacement cost. That's always best. Some homes just simply can't have that due to the age of things, or the age of the home, but it is best if you're able to get that.
Okay.
Also, one thing that we're seeing is age of hot water heaters.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I've dealt with that a lot over the years.
From what I have been told from plumbers, the life statistically is 10 years. However, we live in a saltier area here, and the salt, even though you have water coming from your sink or whatever in that hot water heater, over time, salt can get in there. And when you know that there's an issue, it's too late, because it rusts from the inside out, and then you have a big mess on your hands. The carriers ask, a lot of them now ask 14 years or newer. So not all of them, but some of them do. And it's just best. I mean, hot water heaters are relatively inexpensive to get, and
Right.
save from a major issue.
Well, and I have seen too, and this is true for HO6 policies as well. And the importance there is if it's a rental and say you're not there,
Yes.
if you've got a problem with that hot water heater and it leaks and causes damage 4 floors below you, you are stuck with that.
Yeah.
And you've got to file an insurance claim. So the insurance carriers, they obviously know this, and so they want a newer hot water heater to eliminate the risk involved in that. But I've also seen it as an issue in single family homes as well. I'm sure similar reasons to the rusting issue that she's discussing, but on the condos specifically, I mean, the amount of damage that could be caused to the units below you it could be insurmountable. So, you might not know about it because you weren't even there to jump on it quickly.
Absolutely. And it can happen in the night. I mean,
yeah.
Talk about a disaster, especially if it's in the attic. Oh my goodness. I've seen really, really.
Yeah. So I have actually over the years been able to negotiate a ton of new hot water heaters for my clients, because the significance on the carrier, as she talked about, some carriers that may be writing the best insurance policy won't cover it because of that hot water heater. So you're not able to get the best quote available because of that. Well, I don't like for my buyer to have to take on that burden. So I'll try and negotiate the new hot water heater for them so that they can get the cheapest coverage out there. And I mean, you're talking anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 depending on the size of the hot water heater with the materials and labor. And it's just, it
just makes sense.
It just makes sense. I mean, it lowers your risk and liability, and then it lowers your insurance. So it's a win-win for the buyer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was a big one. One thing that's not on our list that I do want to ask you about is on single family homes, I hear owners get a little freaked out about trees in their yard.
Yes.
So can you talk to me about that?
So the number one issue, the first thing that I ask, if it's an older home, how old is the roof? Is the roof, if the roof has been replaced, is it a fortified roof? The roof, they at all costs try to protect that roof, meaning trees, granular loss. There can be, like, if there are trees overhanging, it can drop stuff to where it starts growing things on your roof. So trees are amazing. I love trees. But being over the roof can be an issue here with hurricanes.
But what my specific question is, if we get damage and the tree falls on your house, are you covered?
Each policy is different, but are you saying like if your neighbor's tree or your own tree?
I didn't realize there was a significance there, so I guess answer both.
So, however, you are responsible for making sure that it's a healthy tree. If you have a rotting tree and it's hanging over.
But if it's a healthy tree and it falls on your house, you're covered.
According to your policy, read your policy language, but we have over 600 carriers. So, it's a case by case, but looking over your policy.
The reality of it is in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach are typically the lots can be a lot smaller. The new subdivisions don't have mature trees.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's completely a non-issue, but so really it's just a question is, if you do have any kind of mature trees that would even be tall enough to fall on your roof, that's the scenario where you just want to double check your policy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
All right. That is going to cover little details that consumer needs to be aware of.
One more thing is go over your policies yearly. Like call your agent. In our office, we call you yearly. We go over everything. We kind of talk about the policy, talk about your coverages, because a lot of times as the homeowner, we're seeing this right now. Pools are a big deal in our area. Lots of people are putting pools in and they forget to call us. They forget to tell us, oh, we put a pool in. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
We need a 4-foot fence with a locking gate around it. And making sure that, everything's covered in the event that there was a loss due to, hurricane or whatever. Or there are a lot of people that are doing additions or renovations that we need to know about that stuff, because for one, it can save you potentially money on your policy. But for two, we want to make sure that you're adequately covered.
Right.
So we go over all of that, even down to the question of, have you got any new dogs in the last year? We have lots of questions that we ask.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is something that you just don't think about, especially with the pets.
Yeah.
But as far as the pools go, I mean, that has been the number one reason why I just do not want to put a pool in.
Yeah. Is
that liability factor, not to mention the maintenance and the upkeep of it. But that's why I bought a condo, so I can use their pool.
That's right. That's right. And play in it anytime you want to.
And it's a way nicer pool than I could put in my backyard.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's talk about, I get this all the time with my buyers here. They want, I'm going to help them get a quote from a local agent, because, it goes beyond just wanting to support local businesses here from a camaraderie community element. It's way more about making sure that I'm using an insurance agent that is very knowledgeable on our area, knows exactly what type of insurance you want, and has multiple carriers that they can get quotes for you on. So that is the biggest reason why I'm such a huge proponent of using local insurance companies. But nevertheless, it is inevitable. I'm working with a client and they want to either A, ask their hometown insurance agent to quote them, or B, they are with a big brand name carrier back home and they want to try and bundle. They want to try and get a quote. And I'm always like, don't think that company's even going to write down here, but you're welcome to try. And 95% of the time they call me back and go, oh, Aileen, you were right. They won't even quote down there. So I want her to explain this, because she knows the ins and outs of the reasons why better than me.
Absolutely. So we work really, really hard to get carriers in our area that are specific to coastal coverage, and making sure that we have coverages that cover hurricanes, that they cover the things that we have issues with here, and making sure that, for one, that they know this area, they know about the flooding, the rain, the hail, all the things. So we have coastal carriers that are specific to our areas. A lot of them are even based out of Florida. They're so coastal. So it is a big deal. It is a big deal to make sure that, for one, that you get the coverages that you need, that carriers are very informed in our area, that they know just all the issues that we have as far as, hurricane, hail, anything that can happen here. Where there's, you have certain coverages, say in California, for fires and, sinkholes and all these things.
Earthquakes, things that we don't deal with here.
Yes. Every area has their own little
tornadoes we don't deal with unless you're further inland.
Yeah. So it's always best to get not only a hometown insurance agent that's local here to the county, but also a lender that is local here, just because they know the carriers for insurance. They know this area. They have investors for this area. But for insurance, I cannot say it enough.
And is there a reason why, like a lot of the big names, they just won't even write down here? Is there?
It scares them. It's, we're so
it's just outside. It's just outside of their. Yes. It's outside of their box.
Yes, we're in some homes are in flood zones, condos. I had one maybe a few weeks ago, and the day of closing, they the lender was out of town, and they made me 7 stories up. The unit was on the 7th floor. they made me do flood insurance.
I've heard of this before too.
Yes, very, very costly. And
because the policy was already covered under the master policy.
And they didn't
so it was just arbitrary insurance.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just, Aileen has great connections. She has her team that she uses, and relying upon her and her expertise to guide you during the path of purchasing a home or condo or whatever you may be purchasing. It's just simply key.
Yeah, so it's all about making sure that the buyer is well taken care of,
100%.
The homeowner is well taken care of, and smooth transaction, and all that is so important. I want to talk about AIUA, what that is, and why it is so significant, because some of the big companies will write down here, but they will do your wind with AIUA. So it is very significant. And I mean, I've even, like, USAA is a big one that veterans love to use because they are phenomenal to work with. They are traditionally wonderful insurance coverage. But the key detail is that they will not write wind and hail down here. So you have to get that wind and hail policy through another means. Well, that's the most expensive part of your policy. So a lot of times they will use AIUA, and they're not the only ones. There's other companies, but I worry about veterans that don't understand this, that are so like, I have to use USAA, and that is great, absolutely. But just understand this key component. A lot of the other big names will do the exact same thing. They'll write your policy excluding wind and hail, and then they will go out and use AIUA to get that part of the coverage, which is AIUA is well, I'm going to let you explain it.
Well, generally it's more expensive. Whenever you have two separate policies, you have your homeowners that covers fire and that kind of thing. Then you have a wind policy. It's expensive to do insurance that way, and it can get a little tricky in the event of a loss. They're saying, oh no, it was this first. No, it was that first. And who's in the middle is the precious insured. And it can get sticky just doing things that way. We do our policies all in one, that it has wind coverage. AIUA is government insurance. Basically, it's used for if there's no other option for wind coverage. So we do have options to cover AIUA. But we generally stick to having wind coverage on our policies, just because it's just better for the client. It just makes more sense. It's cheaper, and it's all in one, policy, other than flood. Flood is a complete different policy.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, a consumer would only want to utilize AIUA if it was their only means for insurance.
For me personally, that's what I would do is it's government insurance for, last resort. I would have it all bundled together.
Yeah. And quick story on that, my beloved hairdresser, who's been doing my hair for close to 20 years, we've become very good friends over the years. And she had AIUA during Sally, had a lot of damage. And I sat in her chair for 4 of the last 5 years and listened to her listen to her tell me the total nightmare that she has had with AIUA and getting reimbursed for that damage. And man, I could have her on a totally different video, and she just lets him have it. I mean, she is very vocal about it. Last thing that we're going to talk about, and this is kind of, me promoting Miranda and her company, and letting her explain to you, because Point North is a larger agency, and I want her to touch on what advantages that gives her to be able to help you.
So we merged with Point North 4.5 years ago. And the reason why we did that is, for one, they are a stellar agency, and we have 24-hour service. If you were to have a claim in the middle of a hurricane, there is someone there answering that phone. That is huge. But also we have over 600 carriers, and we can insure anything from auto dealerships, trucking companies, to mobile homes and condos. We can just insure anything. So we saw the market hardening. So backing up a little bit, Florida is kind of guides the path for insurance for the whole United States. And we are number 3 on that list. Florida's number 1, we're number 3. So we saw what was in the pipeline as far as what Florida was going through. Carriers were pulling out. It was just a hot mess. And so even if Hurricane Sally would have not hit us, we would have still been in the same situation that we're in now, with premiums getting higher. It's just the loss ratios across the board in the United States for reinsurance premiums.
I love that you clarified that, by the way.
We saw what was in the pipeline. We saw what was happening. We decided to merge with them, and I'm so thankful because strength is in numbers and making sure that you have really, really good business on your books and you write good quality risks, and that you know, the carriers, we are platinum with them. So
platinum, and talk about that a little bit, because I know you had told me, you know, if one of your clients does have a claim, that platinum really matters.
It absolutely does. So if you are in a claim, you're with our agency, you're in a different queue, because with our carriers that we're platinum with, like, you are just taken care of above and beyond. And if you were to ever have a problem, you know, me as the agent, you call me, and of course I would get on the phone and anything I could do and everything I could do to help you. But we just really don't see a lot of issues. We just don't. We're very particular about the carriers that we write, and we have a contract that we have to adhere to, and they have a contract that they have to adhere to for us too.
Love that. Love that. Well, guys, I am going to wrap this video up. I truly hope that you watch this video all the way through. This is really probably the most important topic that we could talk about on our channel. It's so important whether you are planning to move here or you already own property here. I get it all the time from people that want to move here from out of state that have never lived in a hurricane prone area. And so they're always very apprehensive about that one topic. It's not as scary as they think. And I always kind of tell them, you know, it's really not that scary. You just need to have the knowledge that we have. And so I thought it was super important for us to share that knowledge with you guys, because, you know, it is such an important topic. So hope you enjoyed the content in this video. As always, we are trying to bring as much value as possible as we can to anyone who owns property here or is thinking about moving here. So if there's any questions that you have, any feedback you have with regards to this video, drop us a comment. We would love to hear from you. We love your feedback. It's so important for us to get that feedback from you guys. We really do enjoy it.
Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions about insurance, please don't hesitate to give me a call. My direct number is 251-923-4876. Again, Miranda with Point North Insurance.
Yes, and thank you again, Miranda Bennett. Hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, we hope to see you around town.
I get footfalls on your shades that hit the sand. Where the Gulf breeze blows, it's a wonderland. Orange Beach living, oh, it feels so right. From sunrise